Everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is a series of videos on learning how to program in PHP. PHP is a programming language. It's very popular for scripting server-side. It probably powers a good chunk of the internet because a good chunk of the internet runs on the content management system WordPress, which is created through PHP. Okay, so if you want to kind of get into the WordPress freelancer space, PHP is going to be a must learn. And there are other PHP frameworks, such as I think Laravel is in PHP, and there's a couple other ones, Symfony, a couple other frameworks that are really popular that make use of PHP to create cool stuff. Now, in your HTML, like if you're doing like an HTML website and you wanted to put some PHP code in there, assuming that your server would render PHP, so that's something you always want to check when you're using server-side languages to make sure that you're set up for your server to actually go in there and interpret what's the code that's inside your scripts. Okay, but basically, technically, you would stick this in your HTML tag, and anything between this opening PHP tag and this closing PHP tag would be code. Okay, but we're using REPL, REPL.it, which is a great website just to create a nice little environment to practice coding in. So that's what we got here. Now, always the first thing you want to learn when you learn any programming language is how to print stuff to the console. Why? Because that's how you test how things work, by seeing if they print to the console and print what you expect them to print. So you need to know how to get stuff to the console. So here, the command is echo. Echo just means to print something out. So echo hello world. That's a string. And you know it's a string because it has quotation marks. String meaning just a series of letters to be treated as letters. So run hello world. Yes, cool. Okay, and you could also run, you could run expression, you can echo expression. So I could do like 5 plus 5. So if I were to echo 5 plus 5, it should echo 10. 10, it works. Okay, so that's pretty neat. Okay, now things we have to do in any programming language is to understand, one, how you declare variables. Okay, two, how do you do expressions using math and logical operators? And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Then after that, we're going to be talking about like collections of data, functions, and classes, and control flow. Basically, those are the core concepts in all programming languages, but every programming language has slight differences in them, especially in the operators. PHP has some pretty things I have not seen, at least up to this point, in other languages, which are pretty cool. Okay, so here we go. Variables. Variables are pretty simple, okay, but variables always get declared with a dollar symbol first. So it'd be like $A equals 5. And since this is a scripting language, meaning it's going to be interpreted on the fly, there's no main function. So you just wrap it in that PHP tag. So let's say A equals 5. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. So again, I got to put my semicolons after each command. And I echo A. This means I want to print out that variable A. Let's see how that goes. Boop. Okay, and now only basically printed out 10, but then print out 5 right next to it. It didn't go on to a new line. Okay, so just keep that in mind when we see the output. Okay, so that's how you assign a variable, and you can assign a variable of any type. It could be a string. String would be like hello. But they are different types. So under the hood, they're treated as different types of information. So even if I gave a number with decimals like 5.05, they'd be treated as a double or a float. So see 5.05. Or if I wanted to do a Boolean, which would be like true or false. So notice I didn't put the true in quotation marks because it's not a string. It's the value of true. A Boolean value is a true or false type thing. Okay, and as we can see, apparently it treats true as 1, so I'm assuming it's going to treat false as 0. Okay, or as null, I guess. Cool. But that's essentially that. Okay. Now, we have different types of operators. Okay, so let's see here. Let's echo. So of course you have 5 the plus operator, which means to add. Let's do this. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can multiply by 5. Or actually, let's do subtract first. Subtract, multiply, divide, and modulus. We'll come back to modulus. So if you run those, as we can see here, so just putting it all on, I'll look about to do a new line in a little bit. Okay, but basically for 5 plus 5 is 10. So we see 10. 5 minus 5 is 0, so there's 0. 5 times 5 is 25, so there is 25 right after the 0. And then 5 divided by 5 is 1. And 5 modulus 5 is 0. Now, what does it mean to be 5 modulus 5? Okay, there's two ways you can think about it. The way people will tell you is they'll say, is 5 divisible by 5? If it gives you 0, then it is divisible by 5, which is true. But there's more to it, which makes it clear how you can use this in other ways other than just figuring out what number is divisible by what number. So I always think of it as the number on the left as a number of slices of pizza that I have. So if I have 5 slices of pizza, and the number on the right is how many people I have to share that pizza with. If I were to give everybody the exact same numbers of slices of pizza, how much pizza would I have left? So if I have 5 slices and I give it to 5 people, I'm going to have no slices left. But let's say I had 7 slices. Well, I don't have enough to give everybody 2 slices. I only have enough to give everybody 1 slice. But if I give everybody 1 slice, then I'm still going to have 2 slices left over. And that's why 7 modulus 2 equals 2. It's giving me the remainder, okay, after I distribute the left to the right. So, and then again, the reason you generally use modulus is not necessarily to find a remainder. You can use it. There are going to be situations where that may be the case, but it's mostly to figure out if a number is divisible by a number. If you get any number other than 0, then that number is not divisible by that number. So 7 is not divisible by 5 because you don't get 0. But 10 modulus 5 should give you 0. Okay, why? Because if I have 10 slices of pizza, that's enough to give all 5 people 2 slices. So I'm going to have no left over. It's evenly divisible by the number 5. But if I were to take 10 modulus 4, okay, I can give everybody 2 slices, but I'm still going to have 2 slices left behind, so I'm going to get modulus 2. So it's not divisible by 4. So that's what modulus does. Cool. Now, let's talk about if statements so we can explore Boolean parameters. So, one moment. Okay. So, the way if statements work, and this is what's called control flow. What it does means how does the program sort of move towards one branch of what can happen to the next. So the way it generally works is you type in the word if, which means, hey, we're going to test something. Then you're going to put your test here. Okay, so we'll just say, is 5 greater than 5? Now, if that's true, we're going to put in curly brackets what will happen if it's true. So we'll just keep this simple and say, echo, this is true, semicolon. And then what I can do is I can put in an else statement. So after that curly bracket, if it's false, it won't do what's inside that first curly bracket, but I can type in else, which means if it's false, do this instead. Okay, good indentation makes life a lot easier. So that way you can tell what's what. Echo, this is false. Cool. Okay, this is true, this is false. So 5 greater than 5, that's not true. 5 is not greater than 5. So that should give us this is false. So let's double check. Okay, well, semicolons matter. Okay, so let's just make sure I read through this, make sure that should all check out. So run. This is false. Now if I say 5 is less than 5, that's still false. This is false. But if I say 5 equals 5, okay, so if I do 2 equals, it's just going to check is 5 5, which should be true. This is true. Now if I throw in another equal sign, then it's a true equality symbol, kind of like JavaScript. And what this means is that not only do they both have to equal the value of 5, but they both have to be the same type. Okay, so for example, if this is 5.00, that even though they're both worth 5, they're not the same type. One's a double, the other one's an integer. So that should be this is false. But if I go back to 2 equal signs, that should give me this is true because they're both worth 5. This is true. So that's the difference between 3 versus 2. Not only is it checking the value of the variables, but it's also checking the type of the variables. Okay, which there'll be situations where that matters. Okay, so continuing on, you can say, is it not equal? Okay, so then here you can do not equal, which would be like not the 2 equal signs, but you could also do not true equal. Okay, meaning it'll check type as well. But so is 5 not equal to 5? That's false. So this is false. I can also do greater than or equal than. Okay, which that it's not greater, but it is equal, so that should be true. I can do less than or equal. Okay, and that's going to be true as well because it's equal. Now you can do compound operators in the sense that I could do something like this. So is 5 greater than 5? And okay, is 5 greater than or equal to 5? So what it does is it's going to check this statement, see if it's true. So is 5 less than or equal to 5? That's true. Then it's going to evaluate this statement, and that's going to be true as well. Now this says, do both need to be true? Does one need to be true? Does none need to be true? Or okay, so with and, the 2 and says means both need to be true. So since both of these are true, it should return true. So this is true. But let's say I change this to that. This is now going to be a false statement. So it's true and false. So since both aren't true, because it's an and, saying this needs to be true and this needs to be true, that's going to mean this is false, even though this part's true. Now if I made this an or, okay, as long as one of them is true, it'll give me a this is true. Okay, so this is true, even though this is false, that's enough. Now what's kind of different here that I haven't seen in other languages is this, XOR. What this means, one of them needs to be true. They cannot both be true, and they cannot both be false, but if one of them is true, then it's true. So if I go back to this, where they're both true, that should give me false. This is false because it's not or, it's this or this, not both. Okay, but if I made this false again, it should now give me true. Cool. So that's pretty neat. Okay, so that's what you can do there, and that's just how if statements work as well. So one thing happens in one direction, another thing happens if it's false. Okay, but it only happens once. What if you wanted to do a loop? Okay, there's always plenty of different versions of a loop, but there's always 2 main ones you need to learn to get started. Okay, the first one is the while loop. Okay, and the while's pretty straightforward. Works pretty much the same in all languages. It's like while this is true, so we'll say while. Generally, you always want the standard structure of a loop is you want to declare a variable beforehand. So we'll say I equals 0, and we'll say while I is less than 5. So while this is true, anything in these curly brackets will happen. So let's see here. Say we'll just echo hello. And then after each time we echo hello, we are going to change the value of I to I equals I plus 1, which just means it's adding 1 to I. Okay, so I just put my semicolons because it gets mad at me when I don't. Okay, so basically it's going to keep looping until I is not less than 5. So it should print it out hello 5 times. So hello, 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 hello 5 times. Why? Because the first time I is 0, then I is 1, then I is 2, I is 3, I is 4. That's 5 times. Once I becomes 5, it doesn't do it. But here's the thing about the while loop is like that's fine. There are situations where that's going to be the better option because you just have something that's either true or false that's going to be determined by. But if I'm going to be doing this whole sort of increment the variable type thing, I might be better off doing what's called a for loop, where I declare all that stuff inside the loop. So basically, I would, instead of this being here, I would put that here in the beginning of the loop. And instead of this being here, this would be over here. It's the same structure, but it's a little bit more explicit. So basically saying, hey, for this variable, we're going to have this variable called I, which is going to equal 0. Until I is less, well, as long as I is less than 5, keep doing this loop. And at the end of each loop, add 1 to I. Okay, so it'll just keep doing what's inside the thing until the loop is no longer functioning or breaks. Cool. And then again, it prints it out, hello, 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 hello. If you ever wanted to create a condition that you want to break out of the loop early, you can use the command break. Okay, so like if I put the break command here, that should just break out of the loop the first time. Yep. Now, why would you want to do that? You might have a bunch of if statements where there's a specific situation in which you want to break the loop, otherwise keep the loop going. You start compounding everything. So but that's that. I'll see you guys in the next video. We'll talk about functions, and then we'll talk about classes in the video after that. And you guys will have a pretty good, solid foundation in PHP.